question, you don't consider that you have that talent, that you have that capacity, that you have the potential of doing that. The only thing that you are missing is the time, right? So before you were thinking a little bit different, now it's just the time. Just find the time. Just find the time. I can tell you, when I was writing this book, I was busy. I was busy like hell because I was working and I was traveling. And I was working in Canada at that time, but most of our customers were in the States. And I was traveling through the States. The difference of timing between the East Coast and the West Coast is huge. And sometimes you arrive at home and you feel really tired. But when you have a motivation, in my case it was I didn't want to lose the communication with my kids, then you find the time to do it. Because you feel not too much about the story of my book, because if you think this is interesting, the book, I'm going to read 3 books here in the school so that you can read. It will be available for you in the library and you can read it. But describing a little bit my book is about the bed of the dreams. The title is El lecho de los sueños, bed of the dreams. I made this, it's a pure fantasy, you know, it's a story of a king that gets married and gets a bed, and the bed is scouted by a very special person who has the capacity to create some magic. And the magic thing of that bed is that everything that he was dreaming was coming true. So there are a lot of characters with a lot of fantasy and a lot of things. My kids like it. My kids liked the possibility of dreaming, having something which was absolutely different. But when I was writing the book, I wanted to tell them something as well. You know? It was not just to write a story. I wanted them to understand the moral behind the book. And the moral is that king was able to dream anything and get anything that he wanted. He realized that getting anything that he wanted became a problem. You know, because when you have a dream, imagine you wanted to get married with a girl. But what happened if another friend wants to get married with the same girl? But in that bed, that was the problem. You know, he was dreaming something and it was happening. Anybody who wants to destroy the bed. And there is, you know, the good, bad, and that was the other message that I wanted to send to my kids. I wanted them to understand that nobody is always bad, nobody is always good. We always have a motivation to do something. We always have a reason to act in a certain way. And we always have the capacity to decide what to do. Sometimes what it is good for me is bad for some other people. Sometimes it's the opposite. But you can always make the decision, and you can always have a different attitude in front of different things. And my wife, in the day of my anniversary, he offered me an edition of 10 books, and it was, you can imagine, emotionally it was something else. Watching your book in your hands and watching what you wrote, it was a very nice experience. And when I had the book in my hands, I said, now I have to do something to publish this book. Because many people maybe will deserve to read it. And maybe my effort will be worth if some people can read it. So then I came back and tried to contact different people, different editorials, and at the end, one of them, which is very difficult. You know, the only thing, don't get disappointed and don't get frustrated if you finally someday write a book, because the most difficult thing is not to write it. The most difficult thing is to get somebody that publishes that book. But it happened, you know, at the end. It's always a question of having the decision and having the motivation and keep fighting until the moment that you get it. It took me a few years until the moment that I got somebody that trusted in the book, but finally it was published, and now it's available. You know, when I see my name, when I type my name, and I see in Amazon my book, and I see in Cortes and in some other places, I feel well. And just to describe that to the fear, to the white paper. This is the fear that you have. So once that you go in front of the white paper, that's scary. You don't know what you have to start. What else can I tell you? We always have some fears, but we also have inside of us the motivation to go through them and to surpass them. And